Welcome to the Networking with Michelle podcast, the show dedicated on providing you the how-tos of marketing and networking strategies. Here we believe in the Jim Rohn quote, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning into another episode of Networking with Michelle. I am your host, Michelle Gomez. I know there's thousands of podcasts you can be tuning into, but you chose to listen to me for the next 30 plus minutes. And for that, I am very appreciative. So I have a lot of information. I just want to jump right into it today. If you're just catching on, this month of August, we have been talking about creating strategies. We went all the way back to the basics of marketing, the 5 Ps, product or service, your place, price, promotion, and of course, people, how to understand your customer, creating value for that customer, and then building a relationship for that customer when it comes to your marketing and your overall business strategies. I also provided you with the 6-point template. These are 6 things that you need to get started when it comes to a marketing plan. Me personally, I like to keep it short and simple. I went to school to learn how to do the 40-page marketing plan, but sometimes you only need 1 or 2 pages to get started, and I try to provide that for you. So if you go to michellegomez.com, you can download that right now, the 6-point template. And last week, probably one of my favorite topics that I'm really trying to focus on for me, myself, my business, and even pivot some of my trainings and my speeches now, is the importance of content marketing. Creating content is so vital to branding, personal or company brand. You have to create content. And I know it's saturated, but it's a must at this point. So last week, I provided you with 30 different ways to create content. We started from a blog post, podcasting, whether you're hosting or if you want to be a guest on a podcast. And if you're a creative, if you are a graphic designer, we talked about illustrations. My graphic designer, San Quan, very talented young man. One thing I love that he's doing right now, I believe he's using an app called SpeedStream. And I don't know how long his process is, but within that video, it speeds up the process. That way people can see your talent. And I just think it's one of those amazing things. So even as whether you're writing, talking, or drawing, you have to produce content. People have to see your expertise and you have to showcase it. And of course, whether you're a solopreneur or if you have a team, you want to create a system in place, a workflow that's going to allow you to produce content on a consistent and regular basis. So now, this week, we have come to the social media marketing strategy part. Okay. So I'm trying to do this in a flow. I'm trying to take you from level 1, 2, and now 3. So this is the thing with social media. And I said this last week. We know we need to be on the platform. We have personal accounts and we have fun and we have a good time. But when it gets to business, a lot of times we don't know what to say. That's why I did the content marketing last week. So now that we know what to say, we need to think of social media as a distribution channel for our content. And before I get to the actual social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram that we know and love, I want to talk about the content distribution channels. So for example, I'm pro website. I believe everyone needs to have a website. If you can buy your name as a domain, please do so. I just think with the personal branding cliche movement that we're in, I think it's important. So of course, with that being said, if you have your website, definitely house your content there first and foremost. After that, I would say medium.com. I like that. I put a lot of my content on there. It makes it very easy. For example, if you already have your content on your website, michellegomez.com, I go to medium.com, I can just do import, type the link in, and it automatically imports it, updates it, or uploads it to the platform. So I thought that was really cool. Great user face, very intuitive platform. It's also, think of a YouTube. Think about YouTube. You go to YouTube for one video, and then on the right-hand side, it has a list of all the other videos that are highly recommended based off of your interest, right? Based off of what you've seen in the past, your playlist and all those type of things. Medium follows along those same lines, right? So if you're always there for social media, marketing, It's going to bring up people and articles based off of that title when you're on that platform. Okay. Of course, the third one is LinkedIn publishing. LinkedIn used to be my favorite platform. I feel like it's in a funny place right now. It's going to be real interesting to see how things move forward since Microsoft purchased them a few weeks ago. Nonetheless, if you're on LinkedIn, I would say definitely put your content on there, especially if you're in professional services, B2B, or service-based businesses, and you already have connections. Go ahead and use LinkedIn publishing as a platform. I still put some of my content on there as well. And what happens is once you upload your content or copy paste, type your content on the platform, all your connections will be notified of your blog post. And I think that's one of the great benefits of blogging on that platform, because everyone's not going to go to your website. Everyone's not going to remember to go to your website, especially in the beginning. So if you're able to reach people on these different platforms, I think that's a plus. And the last platform, and I'm speaking to you as well as myself on this one, Facebook Notes. Facebook Notes. Facebook Notes was really popular a few years ago in the beginning when they first started between the 2006, 8, 9 period. It fell off, and then they tried to make a resurgence last year with a major update. I used it for a client. It looks good. It looks good. I really don't have nothing bad to say about it. It's just not as popular. It's not in demand. But they did some updates to compete with LinkedIn publishing, and a challenge that I'm going to do. I'm going to start putting some of my blog posts on Facebook Notes. So I'm going to start working on that. And I think this is perfect, right? So maybe you're not on LinkedIn, or you don't have the number of connections on LinkedIn, or maybe you don't want to start from scratch or compete with traffic on Medium, or if you don't have a website right now, and you do have a good, decent, trustworthy Facebook following of friends and followers, hey, start there. Nothing's wrong with that. Nothing's wrong with utilizing Facebook Notes. I'm going to do it for myself. I'm saying it here, so please hold me accountable. A new thing with Facebook is also, it's called Instant Articles. Now, this is new. This is August. I just heard about Instant Articles, I want to say late June. I've tried playing around with it. I haven't followed through to the fullest. So I can't say a lot of things about it. But basically, if you are driven by content, you like reading articles, this is supposed to make it easier and efficient for you. And if you're a brand, you're able to brand your content and possibly monetize it as a publisher as well. So I can't speak too much on it, but I would encourage you to look into it, see what it's about, and see if this Instant Articles would be a fitting platform for what you do. Okay, so to me, those are the content distribution channels: your website, LinkedIn, Medium, Facebook Notes, and Facebook Instant Articles. So as we dive into the social media marketing, I'm going to provide some examples. I'm going to try to give you as much as possible, but this is probably not what you're expecting, in the sense that I'm not going to break down what you need to do on every platform. I'm not going to do that. You probably already know that. And I'm sure there's other people that have already told you that, right? I'm going to provide you with information that's going to allow you to think on how you need to use that platform, right? Because everyone's different. And one thing that I encourage, whether you're a marketer or a pharmaceutical sales rep, at the end of the day, you have to play to your strengths. You have to figure out what works for you. And we all know Instagram, they have pictures and video, right? But if you don't like Instagram for whatever reason, you're probably not going to post a picture or a video on there, right? Or if you don't have a strong enough following on Instagram, you're probably not going to move forward on that. But what I want to do is provide you information that's going to allow you to just think about, how can I best leverage social media as a whole, or just one social media platform to boost my digital presence. Okay. So one of the things I like the most, if you don't know, I love Gary Vee. I'm a big Gary Vee fan, and I try to model a lot of the stuff that he does, right? From business, I think he's just ahead of his time. And one thing that he has said is that, well, he said social media is a distribution channel, but the way he compared it was to modern day TV stations. Like you have your ABC, your NBC, Fox News, CNN, Spike TV, et cetera, right? And you have each channel produces its own content based on their audience. Each channel produces content based on their audience. And the audience, as an audience person, when I go to that channel, I know what I'm going to ABC for. I know what I'm going to CNN for. And I think that's very similar when it comes to social media. I know what to expect when I go to Facebook. I used to know what to expect when I went to LinkedIn. And I know what to expect for Twitter and Pinterest and et cetera, right? And I think that's probably one of the best comparisons, the most relevant comparisons that we can use when it comes to merging our content with social media. Now, so each channel, right, each news station has its own audience. Is there some overlap with the audience? Absolutely, right? There's different times. Like right now, it's in the evening. It's 8 o'clock in the evening. It's primetime TV. So I want to watch my shows on ABC, right? But in the morning, I like to wake up and watch the news. So I'm watching CNN. So think about that when it comes to your social media, when it comes to what do I want to post? Who are my followers on this platform? What gets the most engagement? If I post this quote at 8 o'clock p.m., will it get the same engagement at 8 o'clock a.m.? Probably not, right? Because what happens is at 8 o'clock in the morning, we're going to work, we're starting our day, our workout, our business. We're in high spirits. We want to be driven. We want to be motivated. And that quote gives me life, right? So everyone likes it because that's the motivation. That's the inspiration they need first thing in the morning. And they're happy. You put a smile on their face. Well, if it's 8 o'clock in the evening, they're probably not even on Instagram, right? Maybe the quote doesn't resonate as much just because of the time of the day. So just little things like that, you may want to be mindful of what you post, when you post, when it comes to specific platforms. All right. So with that being said, I want you to think social media. Social media is just a community. It's an online network of people that you're able to create, share, and exchange information, right? So whether it's pure comedy, information, business, you're just able to share information on a specific social media platform. Now, social media marketing. This is the process of gaining traffic from that social media platform. With that being said, each social media platform may require a different action. And I think that's where people get stuck, right? One thing I try to do differently, this was really popular when we came along with Hootsuite and Buffer and these social media account management tools. You can just schedule everything at one time and schedule it, and it will go out to all of your favorite channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter at the same time. And you would get the same message on each platform. So if I wake up at 9 o'clock and I spend from 9 a.m. to 9:05 on Facebook, and then 9:05 to 9:07 on LinkedIn, from 9:07 to 9:10 on Twitter, and we're friends on all of these platforms, I see the same message on each platform. Probably not going to resonate. But if I tweak it just a little bit, I'm like, okay, maybe this appeals to me more so. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways you should think about when it comes to what action will I take on this specific social media platform, right? Another example, maybe if you're trying to gain some traffic to your website, Facebook ads are popular. So maybe you need to spend $300 on Facebook ads, but on LinkedIn, you need to produce 5 articles a month to get close or the same amount of traffic. Different platforms require different action. and more importantly, a different language. So not just the content, but maybe the context on that specific social media platform. So a few months ago, I was speaking to the Federation of Professional Women on social media. And one of the things I stated was social media is ever changing. And we're living proof. I remember just a couple of weeks ago, it was like, I don't know what date it was, beginning of August. It was like a Thursday morning. I woke up and I had the option to do Instagram for business. Absolutely. Sign me up. I went through that process. And I was so surprised because I was like, I haven't even heard about this. I didn't even know it was coming, let alone coming so soon. So I remember that weekend, I was just going over a few articles, trying to catch up, get familiar. And the next thing I know, it was like Tuesday morning, we had Instagram stories. It's like, wow, right? Social media is ever changing. It's crazy, but it makes sense since Snapchat didn't want to get bought over. Social media is ever changing. I also stated that we have to learn how to adapt and adopt to gain an audience. We have to learn how to adapt and adopt to gain an audience. So what does that mean? As we adapt to these platforms, we also have to adopt a core message and or adapt our message in order for it to resonate with the audience on that platform. Okay. So what are you going to do differently? Now that Instagram went from 15 seconds to 60-second video, what are you going to do differently? You can say a lot more in 60 seconds versus 15 seconds. Now that Instagram stories exist, what are you going to do differently than what you're currently doing on Instagram, plus what you're currently doing on Snapchat? So how are you you already have your core message, right? You've already adopted that in the beginning. We adopted that last week when we were focusing on content. But now how are you going to adapt that message, create snippets, sound bites, live video? How are you going to tweak your core messages as these platforms continue to evolve and still remain relevant to your audience? Okay, so now I'm going to go into 6 questions you need to ask yourself when it comes to creating your social media marketing strategy. Number 1, you need to identify and set your goals. Identify and set your goals. So we discussed this. You can't create a strategy, can't create a plan without knowing your goals. What are your goals? What are your business goals? What are your marketing goals? And will those align with your social media marketing goals? Okay. Everything has to be in alignment when it comes to your goals and objectives, business, marketing, and then the breakdown of subcategories for marketing, content, social media, etc. Okay. From that, you need to identify your ideal client. What are those behaviors? How does your client act on each platform? So important. Once again, if you post something on Instagram if you post the same quote on Instagram, which this is unlikely, but if you post the same quote on Instagram at 8 p.m., does it get less or more engagement than 8 a.m.? I'm assuming 8 a.m. would get more engagement, but test it and see, right? What are the behaviors of your audience on each platform? Do they respond to open-ended questions? Do they provide you the feedback that you need? How do they respond to your repost, right? Reshares from other people, whether it's from Facebook or Instagram. How does your audience respond on that specific platform? Number 2, selecting the right channels and tactics. Selecting the proper channels and tactics. So once you determine your client's persona on each platform, select the right distribution channel, the right social media platform with the best ROI. Now, this can be very challenging because there's so many platforms, right? So you definitely have to be patient during this process. You want to keep in mind, do I want to do 7 days? Do I want to test this out for 7 days, 30, or maybe even 60 days to see how this operates? Now, this is the thing. You have to be consistent, though. Are you going to post? If you do it for a shorter amount of time, how often are you going to post? Now, there's times when Instagram is my favorite platform, if you haven't figured that out already. There's been times when I was like, man, I need a spike in my Instagram following. And what I do is I'll spend a week posting 4 times a day, at least 4 times a day, 4 to 6 times a day. So that's pretty much every 4 hours, of course, not including late nights. And what I've noticed is the engagement skyrockets and I get more likes. More followers. And I don't know how, I don't know why it happens that way, but that is something that I've noticed and that works for me, but it's very aggressive. In addition to that, what I would do is if I post on Instagram, I set aside about 3 to 5 minutes. That means I pretty much stop anything that I'm doing and I'll post. In return, the people that like my status within those 3 to 5 minutes, I go to their profile and I like one of their pictures as well. And so that's the time consuming part, right? But I've noticed when I would do that, when they like my picture, I go back, I like theirs. In most cases, they will follow me and then I'll go back and follow them, right? And so you're probably like, well, Michelle, why are you doing that? So one thing is a couple of months ago, I decided to get very serious about Instagram to make that my platform as choice, my primary platform. So I believe I post more content on Instagram and then I try to space it out. So you may see more things on Instagram or different things on Instagram that may not make it to Facebook, definitely not LinkedIn, and of course, Twitter. I received the email where I had a chance to do a little bit of influencer marketing per se, or to get paid to do some Instagram posts, but I didn't have enough followers. And then I was like, okay, I need to get serious about Instagram. So ever since that, I've just been hyper focused on producing good content, good visuals on Instagram, and it comes and it goes. And I didn't do the sponsor post, but that's something that I have worked on. So whatever your reason is, whatever you decide on, okay, well, I don't know which channel is right for me right now, and you need to find out, just be patient with yourself. Give yourself a time frame, 7 days, 30 or 60 days, and see what works for you. With that, you got to also listen to your audience, listen to what they're telling you, listen to their engagement. Well, you know what I mean. Watch what they're doing, how they're responding, what kind of comments are you getting. When I was on Instagram, if someone comments, I respond, right? Thank you. I tag them. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I may do it that day. I may do it at the end of the day. I may do it 2 weeks from now, but I try to go back and respond to all of those comments. Anytime someone shares something of mine on Facebook, I like it and I say thank you. So listen to your audience, give them what you want. That goes back to week 1 on understanding your customer and creating that value in that relationship. And then from that, you should be able to determine what would be your primary or your secondary channel. And then also keep in mind, what can you manage, right? When I do these training classes, I tell people, hey, if you only want to focus on one platform, it's okay. It is okay. Because sometimes you have to go deep rather than wide. Okay. So what are your tactics? What are your tactics going to be based on your objectives and best practices for that specific platform? Once again, what you do on Facebook, you can't do on LinkedIn. Facebook ads are cheaper than LinkedIn, right? So let's get into your budget. Even with just the monetary, set that aside. The language you use on Facebook might not be the same language that you use on LinkedIn advertising. Okay. So what are your tactics and the best practices for each platform? All right. So number 1, we have identify and set goals. Number 2 is identify your ideal customer. Number 3 was select channels and tactics. And number 4 is the content. Once again, so last week we did our content strategy, right? I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but keep in mind, content and social media have a symbiotic relationship based on the form and the contents, right? So of course, pictures are visually appealing, but you may be able to explain more in a 1 to 3 minute video. So keep that in mind on your initial content. Maybe it's the blog post, or let me back up. Your initial content can be the actual video. And then from that, you write a summary or you transcribe it. That's your blog post. And then maybe from that, you create a quote, an image card, and that's repurposing content. So you just take one thing You create one form of content and then you're able to multiply that, create additional forms, and then you have 3 pieces. And that's just the basics. That's very simple. Once again, last week I gave you 30 ways, 30 types of content that you can create. Okay. Number 5, systems, having a budget and resources, creating a budget and resources. You got to create a workflow, right? How do you want to organize this material that you're presenting to people? Can you combine your content marketing and social media calendar, right? So you're creating all of this on these and these days, and then you know what days you're releasing this content on that platform. Of course, do you need to assign roles, duties, and deadlines to your team or even to yourself? Will you be using any resources? In this case, I'm referencing, are you still using Hootsuite, Buffer, Edgar? Are you using any type of social media account management tools that allow you to save time and distribute the information accordingly? If you're writing blog posts, are you using Click to Tweet? I really like that. It makes it simple for people to click on that quotable and share it on Twitter. Maybe you don't have a graphic designer. Can you get in there, jump in Canva, play around a little bit, and create a few things? Chrome extensions. I love Google Chrome extensions. I use Buffer and a few other, but Buffer, what I like about Buffer is, I think Hootsuite has this now, but if you use the Buffer Chrome extension and say you're reading an article on socialmediaexaminer.com and you like it, you click on the Chrome extension and it'll automatically pop up and take you to your Buffer account, and that will allow you to share it immediately, or you can schedule it. But this is the key. If you can add your own context, your own point of view to any articles that you share, that can go a long way as well, right? Especially if it's something that's already confirming what your belief is in. So for example, I'm a social media person. So I tell people all the time, you got to create content. You got to create content. And I may have an audience that I haven't won over yet when I say you have to create content. But if there's an article on Social Media Examiner, but hey, I'm sharing it because this is confirming my point on why you need to create content. And hopefully I can say something nice to provide more value and context and pique the interest of my audience on that platform to read that article. Another thing that I've been hearing a lot and that I'm working on, I've been hearing people say this for the past couple of months. When it comes to, I guess, going viral, that's not really a specific goal of mine right now. But the saying is 20% writing the content and then 80% promoting it, right? So, and I'm guilty of this lots of times when I do my weekly show. I'll just post it. Well, it automatically goes out on Monday, and then I may post it again Tuesday or Wednesday. But I really need to get in the habit of sharing my weekly posts more than that once a week, right? And keeping it within a cycle that's just automatic, that I'm just pretty much about to flood y'all with some content. I'm just thinking about this as I speak. Just having that cycle come out on the different channels. Like, yes, I have a new podcast episode every week, but there's a really old one that's a goodie, right? Oldie but a goodie, that maybe it didn't resonate with you then, but it resonates with you now, right? Have you ever felt that way? If you listen to an old song or even an old book, maybe you bought the book months ago and for whatever reason you didn't read it, but now that you pick it up, it's like, man, this is right on time. So, all right, that's just me. But think about it. There's 20% writing and then 80% promotion. So just don't promote your weekly show that week. Promote it all the time. Promote it 3, 4, 5 weeks out, 6, 7, 8 months out. Keep promoting it because you never know what's going to happen, how many eyes and ears that it will land on. And number 6, analytics, right? This is really important. Understanding your analytics or reviewing your analytics. Of course, if you're doing advertising, they'll definitely Facebook is really good at giving you weekly or monthly reports based off of your ad spend. But if you can jump in your business pages and different things and review the analytics, and then not just the analytics on that specific platform, But taking a step further and comparing that to Google, your Google Analytics on your website, and be like, hey, where is my traffic coming from? That's also going to help you when it comes to number 3, selecting and identifying the right channel to be on. One of my clients does a weekly video, and I was doing her analytics, and we realized that Facebook was the dominant platform, the primary platform. So even after I left, she revamped her strategy to put more emphasis on Facebook, right? But we wouldn't have known that without reviewing the analytics. So know your analytics and see what changes you can make when it comes to these different strategies. All right, so I was either ranting for too long or it's just a lot of information. We're at the 35-minute mark right now, but I definitely want to just once again help you as much as possible, providing you a structure on creating a strategy. Because I think what happens is that you hear the word strategy, marketing plan, social media plan, I need a plan of action, and we get overwhelmed. But I really want to break it down and make it as narrow as possible by just giving you, okay, just focus on these 6 things to get started. And some of the greater things, so wider things, you can look into that later as you start to build your audience, as you start to gain that traffic. But focus on, or at least for social media, focus on what are your goals? Do my marketing and social media marketing goals align with my business goals? What is the end goal? And do I need to reverse engineer that? And from that, I'm able to find my target audience to my ideal client. Once I know who they are, okay, I know who they are. Now, what platforms are they on? And if I pick the right platform, I know I can communicate with them effectively based off of the tactics and the best practices that I'm going to use on that specific platform, right? I think it was 2015, I made a decision. I was like, okay, Michelle, you got to get this visual branding element together. So I went to my designer, and he hooked me up. He took care of me. And that really helped with my Instagram, but not so much my Pinterest. But we'll talk about that later, okay? But it's also, what kind of content am I going to produce? And how am I going to distribute and curate this content accordingly? That way my content and my social media are in line. They have a symbiotic relationship, making sure these things fall in line. And then last but not least, and the last 2, making sure you have a system in place and reviewing your analytics. Okay. So I'm hoping this helps. And we're coming really close to wrapping up these strategy sessions, this series. Next week, we're going to talk about pricing, different pricing models. That's going to be real interesting. And I just want to provide the information to you, not necessarily tell you what is right or wrong, but hopefully you can find what works for you. Remember, it's all about playing to your strengths. A couple of things. If you like what I'm doing, if you like the information I'm providing, if you feel that it's of value, if you're able to just take one thing and apply it to yourself, apply it to your personal brand, your company brand, if you can please go to iTunes, do a rating and review, I would really, 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 really appreciate it, okay? If you do it, I'll give you a shout out. And if you see me on the street, I'll even give you a hug. So if you can take care of that for me, I really appreciate it. If you think that, hey, Michelle, everything you're doing is great, but I still need some help, and you feel like you need some specific instructions that are relating to you and your business, hit me up. I'll be glad to sit down and see if we can align a consultation, and that way we can just dive deep into your needs, your specific needs, to make sure that you're up to par. And I want to thank you for everything. And remember 2 things. I believe in you, and a personal connection leads to an influential network. Thanks for networking with Michelle.